How many of you have heard of dissociative identity disorder? And how many of you have seen movies or books that feature some sort of serial killer with multiple personalities? To get things straightened out before you get the wrong idea, DID isn't the axe murderer disorder, and people with alters or multiple personalities aren't dangerous to anyone in the slightest. But it's a problem that I have to say that in the first place, in order to ensure that people don't feel afraid around people with this disability, people with my disability. Myself and other members of the DID community have lost their friends and sometimes families for having this stigmatized condition. And most of that stigma comes from fiction portraying us as violent monsters and relying on misinformation to tell their stories. I want to give you the real information so that you can begin to understand what DID really is. I'll be explaining through 3 points. How does it form? How do people with DID function? And what is it like? How does dissociative identity disorder form? A lot of people can't comprehend how there can be multiple people sharing one brain. It's not nearly as supernatural as it may sound. When a child is between the ages of infancy to around 7 to 9 years old, their sense of identity has not yet formed. A young child's sense of self is only a collection of thoughts, feelings, and memories that have not yet formed a concrete identity. If a child who is not yet 7 to 9 experiences traumatic events multiple times before they have formed an identity, they may develop dissociative identity disorder. The child dissociates from their experiences. To dissociate is to become disconnected from reality, like when you read a book and disconnect from the world around you. Everyone dissociates, but DID involves excessive dissociation. When a child frequently dissociates away from trauma, the process of identity formation that I mentioned earlier becomes interrupted, and different parts of that child's brain are sectioned off by barriers of dissociation. This dissociation may prevent some of the altered states of consciousness, or alters for short, from remembering what happened to them, while other alters take on the burden of those memories so that they can function as a system. Every alter has a unique experience of their own life, and so these alters may be diverse from each other in opinions, feelings, and identities. This is how you arrive at a system of unique people sharing a single mind. Now, what does life look like for a DID system? DID was meant for coping with trauma, so what about after that, when you're an adult? Someone newly diagnosed may be frustrated and scared that so much of their own life is out of their control and in the hands of someone else in their mind. What's worse is that you probably have no clue what your alters do when you're not conscious. Going through therapy, a DID system learns to cooperate as a team. Alters who were previously strangers are now encouraged to get to know each other and communicate by leaving notes for one another. These notes can include descriptions of what happened that day, what needs to get done, or making life decisions together as a unit. They can even just be for chatting. Any level of communication is helpful. External communication leads the way to internal communication. Through therapy, dissociative barriers weaken. What this means is that memory loss becomes less severe, alters can begin communicating more within their own mind, and alters might start to recover childhood memories, both traumatic ones and happy ones. A healthy system can be very high functioning, and can even be sort of like a family. Alters work together to achieve their life goals and support each other through difficult times. So that was DID in a nutshell. But what is it actually like to have DID? I didn't realize I had this condition until I was 15 years old, and most people go a lot longer. DID isn't rare like people think it is. It's just covert. Remember, it's a survival mechanism, so it's not likely to be obvious, even to the person who has it. I thought I just had bad memory and an anxiety disorder. But I was lucky enough to hear stories from real people with DID who felt the same way that I did. I still deny that there was any possibility I had dissociative identity disorder until my alter left me a note that I didn't remember writing that said, "I think we have DID." Yeah, it was beyond weird, and it still feels that way sometimes, 6 years later. I've fought with my alters and become really good friends with some. I share my life with all of them. It can be extremely painful sometimes, and extremely joyful others, but it's never boring. I still struggle with amnesia, PTSD, anxiety, depression, and all the not so fun stuff that comes with having DID. But I've come a long way, and I'm living a good life. I say this all to remind you that regardless of disability, everyone is just as human as you. I gave you the basics today, but I hope you'll continue learning. I have a couple of favorite DID YouTubers who post educational content. Check out Dissociative and Multiplicity in Me if you like, and I'll leave links in the description of this video. I've made it a mission of mine to dispel misinformation and give the truth wherever I can, and I appreciate anyone who takes up the mantle, even if that just means sending a link to a friend with the wrong idea. Thank you for your time, and thanks for staying educated.